Closed session deliberated on issues bordering on the workings of the Senate in particular and the National Assembly in general. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session? Thank you. Votes and proceedings of Friday, 9th June 2017. Page 2543, 2544, 2545, 2546, 2547. Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf, Taraba Central. May I move the adoption of votes and proceedings of Friday, 9th June 2017. I so move.
Senator Gimbe, Kogi Central.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the vote and proceedings of Friday, 9th June 2017 to be adopted. I so second. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Friday, 9th June 2017 be hereby approved, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Friday, 9th June 2017 is hereby approved. Announcements. Request for the approval of Abdullahi Oteata as chairman of the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service Board. I have the honor to inform you that Mr. President has approved the nomination of Mr. Abdullahi Oteata as chairman of the Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, FCT IRS Board. See copy of approval attached, Appendix 1. Mr. Atta is an experienced tax administrator with a distinguished career in both public and private sectors of Nigeria. A copy of his profile and curriculum vitae are hereby attached as Appendix 2 for your kind reference. In fulfillment of the requirements specified under Section 32A of the FCT IRS Act 2015, see copy of relevant sections attached as Appendix 3, I hereby seek for the kind consideration of the National Assembly for Mr. Abdullahi Oteata to be confirmed as chairman of the board of FCTRS. While thanking you, please accept the assurances of my best regards and highest esteem, Minister Mohamedou Mbelo, Federal Capital Territory Administration. Distinguished colleagues, let me, on behalf of you, and let me also seek you all to join and congratulate Senator Philip Aduda. Today is his birthday. We wish him God's protection, long life, many years to continue to serve his people and this great country. Congratulations. This is from Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Chairman, Northern Senators Forum. The meeting of the Northern Senators Forum scheduled for today has been postponed. A new date shall be announced in due course. Senator Abdullahi Adamu. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order.
Point of order, Senator Rozoko.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Just a second. Let me just do acknowledgement. I forgot that. I wish to acknowledge the presence of members of National Association of Banking and Finance Students in Owerri, Imo State, staff and students of Capital Gate International School and College, Maraba, Nasarawa State, and staff and students of Premier Academy, Lugbe, in Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings. I wish them a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. You can all sit down now. Thank you. Yes, Senator Rozoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. President, for giving me the floor. My name is Rose Oko. I represent Cross River North. I rise on Order 43, and by your permission, I read. By the indulgence...
Go ahead.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when this leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I bring to this hallowed chamber a dastardly act that was committed on the person of one of my constituents a couple of months ago. The person in question is one Miss Joy Odama, a 19-year-old undergraduate of mass communication at the University of Technology, Protech, in Cross River State. She came on holiday sometime last year in December to meet with her parents here. Precisely on the 18th of December, a friend of hers passed by her house and invited her to go and see one philanthropist, purported philanthropist, one Alhaji Usman Adamu. On the 20th of December, Alhaji Usman Adamu invited Ms. Odama to his house to purportedly and ostensibly with other girls take care of his sick maid while he sought medical attention for her from outside. When the mother came back and didn't find the daughter, she called her, and the daughter explained where she was. But as it got late, she called her again and did not reach her. And repeated calls yielded no response. And so, in distress, she went to the home of the said Alhaji Adamu and was refused entry. On the 21st of December, the police at Karmo Police Station came to the parents to tell them that their daughter was sick and in hospital, but refused to disclose the hospital where she was. On the 22nd of December, the police came to her again to say that the daughter was dead and was at the Federal Medical Center, and that she should go there to see the daughter. Indeed, when she went there, she identified the body of the daughter. The body was already embalmed. On the 24th, she was invited along with her family to the police station at Karmo, where the DPO at the time, one Mr. Nkem Raphael, told her that Alhaji should compensate her or should give her money to help her towards the burial of her daughter. 400,000 was proposed. Apparently, she refused to take the money, so on the 26th of December, the AIG, one Umaru, intervened in the matter and advised the parents to take the money and close the case. They took the money on the advice of a lawyer that they had gotten. They took the money as exhibit. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, as we speak, no autopsy has then been carried out. As at that time, the civil society organizations and NGO and some lawyers had gotten interested. And so they advised that the body be removed from the Federal Medical Center to somewhere else for an autopsy. The body was moved from the Federal Medical Center to the teaching hospital, the National Hospital Abuja, for autopsy. That autopsy report, dated 27th of April, said, put the probable cause of death to be the 20th of December and the cause of death to be acute cocaine poisoning. The media has since become involved and gotten interested in this matter. The Punch newspaper of yesterday carried the story. The Pilot newspaper also carried the story. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to say that the incidence of deaths and of murder cases not resolved in this country is rampant and has continued to be so, even of high-profile murder cases. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I also want to acknowledge that in some cases, justice has been done and the police has been able to unravel the perpetrators of these murders. I want to cite in particular the case of Miss Cynthia, who was murdered by some two young men some years ago. And justice was delivered, and those two young men have been sentenced. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I crave the indulgence of this hallowed chamber that we should add our voice to the call from Cross River State community, in Yala in particular, Cross River North, and Cross River State as a whole, that justice should be done as far as Ms. Joy Odama and her mysterious death is concerned. Distinguished colleagues, I also crave the indulgence of this Senate that the Senate do request the IG of police to investigate this matter and ensure that the perpetrators of her death are brought to book. Distinguished colleagues, that in the event that murder is ascertained, or that it was ascertained that it was murder, that the perpetrators will be brought to book. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I do crave the indulgence also that this matter be referred to the Committee on Police Affairs and the Judiciary for further legislative action. I so move.
Well, as Santoko, you came under personal explanations, and as such, can be no further debate. I was hoping that this chairman, police committee, will be here. He's here. I can't see him, so that I can just take up these matters and look into it. Leader of point of Central.
Mr. President, my name is Muhammad Adamu, representing Kogi State. I rise to read point of order 39(5) and also order 40 of our standing rules. With your permission, I read.
Go ahead.
I let the Senate otherwise direct the business of each sitting day shall be transacted in the following order. Messages from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then order 40. The President of the Senate shall immediately after prayers or as soon as any new senator-elect has taken the oath, affirmation of allegiance, read the Senate any message addressed to the Senate by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, I had you reading the message from the Minister in charge of the Federal Capital Territory. It has not been the tradition to receive messages or to read messages from the ministers. It is inconsistent with our standing rules. And normally...
Sorry, distinguished, so that we don't waste our time. We are the House of Assembly of the FCT. So it's on that capacity that he's writing to us. Not writing to us as a minister, he's writing to us as his own House of Assembly. So that is the reason for writing to us. We are his House of Assembly. No, that's Section 299 of the Constitution. Section 299 of the Constitution. You were MC minister, you know. No, if he's sending it as a minister, fine. But if he's sending it as an assembly, he can.
They route it to the president. They don't send it directly. It is not consistent with the sending orders.
Well, the Constitution is clear on this, so we're working within the powers conferred on us by the Constitution. All right. Senator Dino.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, my name is Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I draw inspiration this morning from Order 14. If I have the nod of Mr. President, I beg to read.
Go ahead.
And the members of the Senate individually conferred by the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act, Cap 208, Laws of the Federation, 1990, and other statutes, or by practice, precedent, usage, and custom. Whenever a matter of privilege arises, it shall be taken up immediately. Mr. President, I rise this morning to inform the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria of the satanic, wicked manifestations of the governor of Kogi State and his cronies. Mr. President, I went on a regular visit to my constituency to brief and debrief my constituents about a government-orchestrated recall program. On Sunday, I was in Kaba, where a mammoth crowd received me, and I addressed them and debriefed them on the propaganda of recall by the state government. Mr. President, after addressing them in a peaceful rally, I proceeded to Ijumu local government, where I had another very successful rally. That same day, I proceeded to the third local government, Mopamuro, where the entire community and local government came out to receive me and pass a vote of confidence on me. On Monday, being yesterday, I left my village and arrived Lokoja in the company of SSS and police. When I arrived Lokoja, I called the director of SSS that I have intelligence that the governor brought in assassins to kill me. And the SSS director provided a truck of SSS men to accompany me around. I also called the commissioner of police. We were halfway talking, the line went off, and I put up call to the deputy commissioner of police in charge of criminal investigation department. And I told him I'm in town, and I have few places to go to, and I want to also go to the Federal Medical Center to pay the bills of indigent civil servants whom, because the governor have not paid for 15 months, are unable to pay their medical bills. And some of them are to undergo minor operations, surgical operations, so that I was going to go there to offset the bills of as many as I can. The police command in Lokoja provided me again with additional truck of policemen. So the SSS and the police accompanied me to the gate of Kogi State Polytechnic, where I addressed the crowd. Mr. President, my colleagues, I just finished addressing the crowd. I got off the rostrum and opened my car to go in. I just saw gunmen from the other side firing sporadically. I ran into my bulletproof jeep, and one particular killer who is notorious and known in Kogi State as a murderer. In fact, he beheaded somebody in Okene. For that reason, he was brought to SARS in Abuja. He spent months in SARS and Abuja and was just released a few weeks ago. This particular criminal was the one that came and faced my car and opened fire on my car. Fortunately, he was shooting a bulletproof vehicle and I was inside. Mr. President, somehow this thug was gunned down and is gone, recovered by the State Security Service. Another thug was also shot by the waist. I got to know later that he passed on. That was how the SSS and police responded fire for fire. Those of you who saw it on the news yesterday and this morning, my Coaster bus was riddled with bullets. My Prado Jeep was completely shattered with bullets. All these vehicles are now in the custody of the Kogi State Police Command as exhibits. Mr. President, the SSS protected me from there and took me to their office. And 2 boys in my Coaster bus got gun wound and were taken to DSS clinic for treatment. Immediately this was done, I was already on my way to Abuja. Before that happened, the SSS used 2 trucks of SSS men to accompany me out of the state and followed me down to Abuja yesterday. Mr. President, this is the second attack of an assassination attempt on my life orchestrated by the Kogi State government. Mr. President, I should also put on record that while they were attacking me, we have pictorial evidence and video evidence. I saw in the midst of those assassinators the local government caretaker chairman of Kogi local government, of Lokoja local government. I saw him, he was wearing white on white. I saw the special advisor to the governor on security, Commander Omodara, retired, in their midst. I saw in their midst one of the special advisors to the governor called Adoga. He is from Lokoja. I saw in their midst one boy that already we had reported to the Inspector General of Police. He was arrested and brought to Abuja twice. He has been released on bail. He is from Kaba. His name is Arewa. He is currently on bail from the IG. He was also in their midst. And we took their photographs and we have videos of these people yesterday. Mr. President, surprisingly, later the state government made a press release where the governor said, my hoodlums killed a student. He called a member of his killer gang, a student. And I have challenged him to tell us, he's a student of which institution in Kogi State? What course is he reading and what is matriculation number? The person is referring to as a student is the criminal I told you beheaded somebody and was brought to SARS in Abuja, but released possibly with the influence of the governor a few weeks ago. Mr. President, we cannot continue like this. I am sorry to bore you, but I seek your indulgence to read section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and specifically I want to read 3C. Mr. President, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 305(3) reads thus: the President shall have power to issue a proclamation of state of emergency only when, C, there is actual breakdown of public order and public safety in the Federation or in any party thereof of such extent as to require extraordinary measure to restore peace and security. Mr. President, I am going to seek the leave of the Senate to bring a proper motion to ask for the declaration of a state of emergency in Kogi State. As I speak to you, Kogi State is no longer passable since Yaya Bello became the governor. Kidnap is going on daily basis. Insecurity is on the rise than ever. Under his administration, there has been 4 jailbreaks in Kotokarfi prison. We cannot continue like that. There's already a state of anarchy, and we are in trouble because the insecurity in the state is orchestrated by the militarization of hoodlums in the state by the state governor. I want to also say that the Senate should cause an investigation on this matter. Not only cause an investigation, but to do the audit of all arms and ammunition in the Kogi State Police Command, specifically the armory in Government House. Because one of the vehicles that was burnt down yesterday, belonging to the local government chairman of Lokoja, loaded with ammunitions. But when it was burnt down, there was massive explosion. It's in the papers today, you can read. It was reported in the papers. There was an explosion for more than 30 minutes from that bus, from that burning bus. That is where they loaded all the ammunition they brought. And they were protected by policemen from Government House. So there's a cause to audit all arms and ammunition in the police. The IG must carry out an audit of all arms and ammunition in Kogi State Command, specifically the armory in Government House. We cannot continue to allow the governor to create mayhem in Kogi State, and this is the second time there's an assassination attempt on my life. He cannot kill me because I am secured, I am hidden in the bosom of our Lord Jesus Christ, and no harm can come near me. So I am declaring before him and his cronies that I am not killable by man. I am a child of God. I am secured in him. The essence of doing this is to shut me up. But I am declaring that I will not shut up. In an unjust society, silence is a crime. All I am asking the governor to do is to pay the salary of 15-month salary of workers in Kogi State, to pay pensioners and be held accountable. And we will not stop in championing that cause. No amount of intimidation, no amount of name calling, no amount of blackmail, no amount of assassination attempt will detract our attention from speaking the truth. Because when you speak the truth, you die. If you refuse to speak the truth, you die. I will speak the truth and rather die. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right, thank you, Senator Dino. You will never die. Well, distinguished colleagues, he came under Order 43, so it's not open to debate, and we cannot either take a resolution on this matter at this stage. But seriously speaking, on behalf of the Senate, I would like to condemn what happened in Kogi State. Section 14(2)(c) of the Constitution is clear on the primary purpose of government, which is the provision of security and welfare of the people. And government must not be seen to be abdicating from that responsibility, because we can only thrive in an atmosphere of security. So I just want to appeal to both the federal and state government to ensure that the citizens are protected and also their properties. So we cannot have a situation where this government will sit by and watch people taking laws into their hands and doing as if there's no government in this land. We need to be serious, we need to be firm. Government needs to ensure that there's government and make sure that people are not allowed to get away with this kind of conduct. And of course, the reckless statements that we are hearing from here and there, government needs to do something about it. The unity of this country cannot be compromised, and the security of individuals must be provided and must be assured. So please, I just want to appeal that this will never happen in any state. It's not about Dino, it's about the people of this country, it's about the duty government owes to each and every one of us. And that duty must, I believe, be performed so that everybody can be free to go home and be able to carry out his civic responsibility and obligations. So this is condemnable, and I will never allow this to continue in a democratic society. So please, Dino, I'm sure that the law enforcement agencies must be doing something about now to ensure that this does not happen, and those involved will be made to answer for their misconduct. So on this note, our prayer is that if there are those who sustain injury, that God will also ensure that they are healed, and then everybody should make effort to ensure that they get the best medical treatment, so that shortly they'll be out of the hospital. So we sympathize with you. We believe that this will end as soon as possible. Say, leader. Mr. Dola.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I want to read Order 42. Order 42. The matter of discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definitely and urgent. I want to bring this matter before you as an urgent issue in respect of the kidnappers that is going on along Kaduna-Abuja road.
Did you discuss the matter with the Senate President today? Have you had a discussion with the Senate President in accordance with the rule on this?
Tomorrow. But you say I should just bring it as a motion.
He said yes.
I say it.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to make it known to this humble chamber that the rate these kidnappers are displaying along this road is becoming alarming. I want to bring this as a motion tomorrow, if possible. I am praying that the Senate will give me this possible time to bring this issue. It is created a lot of havoc on this road. People don't move, they cannot move freely along this Kaduna-Jere road. And this thing is spoiling the name of my constituency. I must make sure that this issue is handled with very, very serious concern. But all the times we meet police will give you different excuses. So by God's grace.
All right, Oviadu, now put the question and see if we can take it the preceding day. Distinguished colleagues, those in support that this motion be taken in another legislative, they say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Joshua Lidani on the Federal Polytechnic Kaltungo, Gombe State Establishment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic Katongu Gombe State Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 471, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Polytechnic Katongu Gombe State Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, first reading taken. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Barnabas Gamade on the Federal Polytechnic Adikwa London Benue State Establishment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic Adikwa Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 494, first reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, Federal Polytechnics Adikwa Benue State Establishment and etc. Bill 2007, first reading taken, has been sponsored by Senator Barnabas Gamade. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Yahya Abdullahi on the Electricity Theft Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Electricity Theft Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2017, SB 496, first reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, Electricity Theft Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2017, SB 496, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator David Mark on the Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo, Benue State Establishment Bill 2017. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo, Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 504, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo, Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 504, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the reports of the Committee on FCT in respect of A, Federal Capital Territory Transport Authority Establishment Bill 2017, Federal Capital Territory Hospital Management Board Establishment Bill 2017, C, Federal Capital Territory Civil Service Commission Bill 2017, and D, Federal Capital Territory Water Board Establishment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Dino Melai, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the reports.
Senator Dino Melai.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I have 4 reports. I don't know if I can just, Mr. President, my colleagues, I want to move the motion that the Senate do receive the following reports. The report of the Senate Committee on FCT on establishment of a transport authority for the FCT and for other matters related thereto, 2017, HB 91. Mr. President, I want to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Senate Committee on FCT on establishment of the Hospital Management Board of the FCT and for other matters connected therewith, 2017, HB 441. Mr. President, I do move that the Senate receive the report of the Senate Committee on FCT to establish the Civil Service Commission and for others related thereto, 2017, HB 167 and 310. Mr. President, I do move that the Senate receive the report of the Senate Committee on FCT to establish the FCT Water Board and for matters connected therewith, 2017, HB 18. Mr. President, I so move.
All right, thank you so much, Senator Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central.
Solomon, allow Mrs. Tinubu to do her job.
I rise to second the motion moved by Senator Dino Melai that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on FCT on all the following House bills for concurrence. I so second. Thank you.
Very well. Distinguished colleagues, in support of the motion that Senate do now receive this report, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Dino may proceed to lay the reports. Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Housing and Urban Development on the need to prosecute building law violators in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Barnabas Gamade, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Very distinguished Senator Gamade.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, my name is Barnabas Kemede. I represent Benue Northeast Senatorial District. I stand to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Housing and Urban Development on the need to prosecute building law violators in Nigeria. I so move.
Senator Theodoji.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator C.A. Oji Ochendo. I represent Abia Central. Your Excellency, I rise to move, support the motion already moved by my able colleague that the Senate should receive the report of the Committee on Housing and Urban Development on the need to prosecute building law violators in Nigeria. I so support.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that Senate do not receive this report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Gamade may proceed to lay the report. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Olorimi Tinubu on the need to ensure affordable and accessible mental health care for Nigerians. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Olorimi Tinubu to move the motion.
Senator Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Oluremi Tinubu from Lagos Central Senatorial District. I rise to move the motion for the need to ensure affordable and accessible mental health care for Nigerians. And we'll discover that throughout the events of today, we've heard about one unhappy situation or the other. And I will take this motion from the angle of the fact that I'll take it from the angle of our youth, of the problems plaguing our youth today, which has to deal with unemployment, rate of unemployment, the inability to make ends meet, and to provide for themselves. And there's a popular saying that said, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And it is from this that I believe that most of our youth are going through a lot, not only mentally, but emotionally as well. We see some of our youth also in unhappy situation, with, in the case of domestic violence, which is quite rampant amongst our youth today. So the Senate is worried about the rising spate of suicide and suicide attempts in Nigeria. And Senate also notes that Nigeria was ranked 78th happiest nation in the world and 4th in Africa in the 2015 World Happiness Report. Notes further that the report published in March 2017 rates Nigeria as 95th happiest nation out of 155 countries. The Senate is concerned that suicide and its attendant causes, namely depression, social and economic problems, low self-esteem, traumatic experiences, physical and emotional abuse, substance abuse, bullying, etc., are not alien to Nigerians. Further concerned that societal ills, economic difficulty, crime rates, etc., which are prevalent in Nigeria, are sufficient to send anyone over the edge. The Senate is saddened that in spite of the dominant pressure of this suicide catalyst, Nigeria's mental health support system is barely existent. Further saddened that access to mental health specialists is expensive and almost nearly out of reach of the poor and middle-class citizens. The effect is that where pressure becomes overbearing for these persons, they attack people around them or attempt to take their own lives. The Senate is concerned that the incidences of these suicides are made worse by lack of attention and the belief that depression and other personality and mental disorders are the white man's sickness and thus does not affect Nigerians. Senate is saddened to remember the case of Ario Taiwo, who posted on Facebook indicating that he had a few hours left to live. Instead of his post being seen as a plea for help, comments in response mocked and encouraged him. He was said to have taken his life a few hours later. The Senate is reminded that the well-being of citizens is the primary duty of government. It is mindful that accessibility of mental health care will also ensure that the teeming number of psychology and psychiatry graduates across the country can put their knowledge to use and be gainfully employed. The Senate accordingly resolves to 1, urge the Ministry of Health at state, federal and state levels to embark on mental health sensitization and awareness campaigns. 2, urge the Ministry of Health at all levels to set up free and accessible mental health stations in all government-owned hospitals and clinics across Nigeria. And 3, urge the citizenry to look out for possible symptoms of unhappiness, depression, etc., and to seek professional help where necessary. And I believe that we as Nigerians should realize that all this situation is very prevalent and all around us. We see that most Nigerians find it difficult to make ends meet, and we as good citizens should always learn to be our brother's keeper. On this note, I want to thank Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues for allowing me to move this motion. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. President, I stand as acting Comrade Shehu Thani. I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Thani to second this very important motion on the need to ensure the affordable and accessible mental health care for Nigerians. Mr. President, there is a connect between our turbulent politics with the mental state of our people. There is a connect between our disjointed social system and the mental state of our people. There is a connect between the iniquity in our economic system with the mental state of our people. It is of note that nowadays people attempt to take their lives. I think a dark cloud of guilt hangs over the skies of our nation. For our collective responsibility, those of us in the position of leadership, our inability to strongly unfold a socio-economic system that will in every possible way prevent people from taking their lives. Mr. President, what makes people mentally disjointed in other societies is not as it is in our own society. The economic indicators have shown very clearly the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the inability of millions of our young people to secure jobs, and the lack of assurance, the despondency, the despair, the hopelessness in the sight of the people as far as the governance is concerned, has in every possible way instigated individuals to take their life. Mr. President, this motion addresses a number of issues: the health aspect, the political aspect, and the need for a social intervention. What we should seek to do to address this problem, no matter how many hospitals we are able to build or equip, as long as it is increasingly becoming difficult for our people to cater for their families, to address their immediate socio-economic needs, and to build their homes on hope, I think we'll be very far away from addressing this issue. This motion is a statement of fact, the fact that reflects the reality of Nigerian society today. Young men are becoming more and more desperate. An ambience of revolution is in the air, in the very sense that people are thinking that if their issues cannot be addressed, then the solution will be for them to take the law into their hands. The last note, Mr. President, as people in the position of authority, our place in history will not be how many rich people were able to build out of the system, but the number of poor were able to lift out of poverty. And I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes, Senator Jibril Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kaduna North. My neighbor, Senator Sani, came so hard on the situation we find ourselves in this country. But I believe that in life is full of ups and downs. You can be comfortable today wherever you are on earth, either in US or in UK or anywhere. You can be comfortable today, then tomorrow you'll be in a different situation of difficulty. It's normal. Life cannot be rosy all the time. And this is what we are facing in this country as of today. That this is the reality. Statistics have shown that in 2015, this country ranked 78 happiest, ranked 78 happiest nation in the world and fourth in Africa out of 155 countries. But this year, 2017, it is ranking in a position. I mean, the ranking has shown that it's 95. 95th happiest nation out of 155 countries. You can see the change. And what created this change? The change is due to the economic situation we find ourselves. The country, as we speak, is in recession. It's in recession. And that's the reason. So I think the government should perform its function of ensuring the well-being of all its citizens. And how do we do that? Because normally when you have this kind of situation, depression comes in, poverty comes in, and so on and so forth. What needed to be done is to engage experts who are to deal with these situations, who are to talk to the people affected by the current situation we find ourselves. Mental health workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on and so forth. I think this is what we need to do. We need to set up these hospitals where we don't have them. We need to engage these experts where we don't have them, so they can deal with this situation. And again, not only that, as said by Senator Sani, we should begin to think on how to revive our economy. Once we're able to do that, we don't even need much of these personnel, these experts. So the important thing is to look at the economic situation and get it addressed, and I'm sure those affected by this problem will really, the number will get reduced. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Porker.
After that,
Mr. President, I rise to support this motion. In supporting this motion, Mr. President, I appreciate the mover's concern, restricting ourselves to mental ailment. But, Mr. President, the issue goes beyond that. Just like my colleague Senator Sani mentioned, if we go outside the four walls of this chamber, Mr. President, dear colleague, you will appreciate the level of bitterness, the level of tolerance Nigerians are going through. There are some that are mentally sound, but psychologically depressed. Not because they are mentally insane, but in a situation you have nothing to eat on the table. You look at your children, there is nothing. Mr. President, dear colleague, you will all agree with me, based on the tests you receive from constituents. There are some that are telling you, for the past 2 days, I've gotten nothing on the table to feed my kids. Mr. President, we have more problems at hand in addressing the social issues of this country. Luckily, Mr. President, just yesterday, the acting president have appended his signature to the 2017 budget. I believe in the next few weeks, government will start rolling out the funds to address some of these social problems in society. And Mr. President, dear colleagues, the the problem has even gone beyond government alone. We owe it duty to address issues of the downtrodden in society. But in a situation where, even when you look at yourself, based on the economic realities, it's difficult for you to assist. My plea is just that we should assist as much as possible, but government has a role to play. The past 1 year or two, indeed, has not been so nice for the populace. So, Mr. President, with the signing of the budget, I think social ventures should take priority so that Nigerian situation, Nigerian problems, the family problems, can be addressed to a very large extent. If we allow the society go into this, the trend is going. Even you that you can feed yourself, you stand the risk. Because if the generality of the populace can't feed ourselves, then the few that can feed themselves stand the risk of being attacked. So, Mr. President, we owe it a duty that collectively, government, the private sector, and individual must address the needs of the people. It's not only mental, it's definitely not mental. The case of taking their life, most often, is just because of frustration and lack of hope for the future. So, Mr. President, I think we have a problem at hand, and we must all address this issue collectively. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Speaker, can we go straight to the prayers? Prayer 1. Urge the Minister of Health at federal and state levels to embark on mental health sensitization and awareness campaign. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the Federal Minister of Health at all levels to set up free and accessible mental health stations in all government-owned hospitals and clinics across Nigeria. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the citizenry to look out for possible symptoms of unhappiness, depression, etc., and to seek professional help where necessary. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very
sorry,
Additional
Dr. Jang.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Jonah David Jang representing Plateau North. I think this motion, we have not really dealt with it to get the right priority. I'm coming. That's why I'm giving the additional prayer. And I believe that this is something that is affecting this country very greatly. And so there should be a public hearing on this particular motion so that let us hear what the public view about what is happening in this country is. And if we do that, we'll be able to come up with a better solution to the overall solution to this problem, rather than just treating it the way we have just treated it. I so move.
Is anybody seconding the additional prayer? Anybody? Well, in the solidarity of former governor, Senator T.O.G.
Thank you, Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator T.O.G. Ochendo. I represent Abia Central. I stand to second my colleague, David Jonah, that we should hear this thing publicly so that people will express their opinion. I so support.
The additional prayer is that the Senate do conduct a public hearing on this matter. Those in support of this motion say aye. Of this additional prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Let me put it again. Those in support of this additional prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Senate leader. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Hope Uzodinma on smuggling, a threat to Nigeria's quest to self-sufficiency in rice production. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Hope Uzodinma to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Hope Uzodinma. I represent the good people of Imo West. I rise to lead the motion on the threat of smuggling to Nigerian quest for self-sufficiency in rice production. The Senate notes with serious concern the threat posed by rice smugglers to Nigeria's quest for self-sufficiency in rice production in order to save foreign exchange earnings. Senate notes also that smugglers smuggled rice through our land borders, through our seaports, through our trade-free zones, and bonded terminals, thereby avoiding the duties and levies placed on them. Worried that the ongoing rice revolution undertaken by many state governments and strategic interventions by federal government agencies will amount to nothing if urgent steps are not taken to curtail this worrisome trend. Worried that continuous waste of scarce foreign exchange on a commodity that can be produced locally makes no economic sense, most especially at a period we are grappling with economic recession. Concerned that smuggling severely harms the economy of a country in multidimensional ways, undermines its local industry, discourages legal imports, and reduces the volume of revenue collected from duties and levies. Concerned that markets and shops across the country are flooded with smuggled goods of any and all descriptions. Smuggled items through the Seme border, Idiroko border, Katsina State border, and Yobe State borders form a major part of the informal economy volume, which ranges between 100% or more of the formal economy. Aware that major proportion of the revenue to be collected by federal government is being lost over and above the adverse impact that smuggled items cost local industries. Obviously, this cannot be done without connivance of corrupt officials. Regrets that thousands of industrial units in the country have been rendered sick due to the availability of smuggled goods in open markets. Smuggling has now become a routine part of economic activities in Nigeria, which hardly raises any eyebrows, nor stirs the slightest fear of the law.
Nigeria is facing the challenge of measuring and countering enormous revenue leakages. Its size is estimated to be 3 times the regular economy. Worried that in spite of the comprehensive import supervision scheme under the technical committee, cases of smuggling are still on the increase, and accordingly resolves to urge the federal government to intensify border patrol to check the activities of these smugglers. Urge the federal government to engage our neighboring countries where the smuggled rice are discharged by ships and transported to the country, and mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariff to carry out a holistic investigation on the operation of comprehensive import supervision scheme and identify those behind the smuggling of rice into Nigeria and other items with a view to bringing them to book. I so move.
Senator Lero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Mohammed Adamu Alero is my name. I represent Kogi State. Mr. President, I rise to second this very important motion. And in doing so, Mr. President, let me state that the Committee on Agriculture had already received reports from Rice Processors Association, Farmers Association, and also importers of various products, agricultural products. And we decided to call the CG Customs, Minister of Agriculture, and the Central Bank. We had about 5 meetings, and in those 5 meetings, we comprehensively discussed the issue of smuggling of rice and poultry products. And we did not only discuss, we also proposed solutions of what should be done. Smuggling has reached an alarming proportion in Nigeria today. And we felt that the only way it can be tackled is to engage our neighboring countries, that is Benin Republic and also Niger Republic. It may surprise you to hear that over 5 shiploads of rice arrived at Cotonou Port, and this rice is parboiled rice and is not consumed anywhere in West Africa except in Nigeria. And the smugglers are operating in Nigeria, and most of them are Asians. We know them. We have told the customs what to do. The Central Bank is also aware. The Ministry of Agriculture has taken it up with the presidency, and they have even called the ambassador of Benin Republic and told him in black and white that go and tell your home government, either they stop using their country as a base for smuggling, or if need be, we close our border. It has reached that stage now. So what we are waiting for is the response from Benin Republic. And not only that, the Controller General of Customs has told us all the measures he has taken. Recently, he had to repost all the area controllers that are in the places where Senator Hope Odzoma mentioned. Seme border, Sokoto border, Katsina border, Kano border, Yobe border. They have all been posted to other areas, and new officers have been brought. He even told us that he has set up a task force stationed at the headquarters. And if there is any information on any smuggled item coming into Nigeria, we should alert him. He will immediately send that correct team to go and get the smuggled items arrested or seized. So we did not only discuss a Senate Committee on Agriculture, we jointly discussed with the House Committee on Agriculture. And Mr. President, we are submitting a comprehensive report to the Senate on this. Far-reaching measures have been taken, and the Senate President has already been informed of this report. It is ready, and it will be laid possibly tomorrow or next tomorrow. So I support this motion and all the prayers associated with it. It is quite consistent with what we have done at the Committee of Agriculture. Thank you, Mr. President.
President Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, let me associate myself with all the issues and sentiments expressed by the previous speakers, especially Senator Adamu Alero, and I will be very brief. I speak as a consumer of rice. Mr. President, this Ramadan period, we bought sugar, rice, and some other essentials of life to support our constituents across the country. Mr. President, I found the price of foreign rice, foreign produced or imported rice, to be lower than the locally produced and processed rice. That is an anomaly, because ordinarily the reverse is supposed to be the case. If we had controlled our borders, stopped the smuggling in of rice, ensure there is proper tariff on imported rice, our rice producers, in fact the entire value chain from growers to millers and to traders, we would have a better price for our rice domestically. And that would have made our economy far better, because it would have provided a lot of jobs, jobs that we have promised people, jobs that were lost in the last 16 years, and we promised to get people back to work. Mr. President, I'm happy with the submission of Senator Adamu Alero, and I will gladly and expectantly wait for the report. But let me say this. We spend billions of naira annually to import rice. Now it is time for us to take the most drastic action we can afford. If it means closing our borders, so be it. Other countries have done that before, and they got better and desired outcomes. We can't continue to play the ostrich or the so-called giant of Africa or giant of ECOWAS. These people don't see us as giants. They take advantage. So I want to urge that eventually we need to have our authorities, whether the customs or other immigration officials, or as a policy of our government, even if it is for a short time, we may close the borders and see what happens. I want to urge all my colleagues, especially those on the other side, who have been quite supportive, but who created the problems in the first place, to support this motion, because it's coming from one of us.
All right, we'll take a chief whip, then the deputy leader, and I will go to the prayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. I'm Olushola Adeyeye from the Central Senatorial District of the State of Osun. I rise to support this motion in its totality. But in doing so, I want to point out one salient fact, and that is that the only mafia that is stronger in Nigeria than the rice mafia is the oil mafia. Any ordinary Nigerian who tries to import rice as a business finds it most impossible, because a quintet of importers are in charge, and they control the apparatus of importation. And it doesn't matter whether it's a PDP government or APC government, these quintet are so powerful that they choke everybody and makes it impossible for others to participate. Unfortunately, because we have neglected agriculture for so long. Until local production rises up to the level of the mammoth population of Nigeria, it is either we import legally, or no matter what we say, smugglers will have their day. Secondly, I want us to be very, very careful about this matter of smuggling. I wish the smuggling was coming directly from Cuba or Malaysia or from Philippines without going through neighboring West African countries. For as long as we are all members of ECOWAS, we either have to revise the terms of ECOWAS or we can't talk about closing our borders. Personally, many of these institutions, including ECOWAS, need serious revision. Because a situation where all you get from membership of an organization is negative, it is time for you to reverse the terms and conditions of that membership. Having said that, I do agree that for as long as smuggling holds sway, it represents a disincentive to local production. Because, as somebody has said, unfortunately, a situation where imported rice is costing less than local rice tells us that we have a big problem on our hand. But I believe we can rise to solve that problem. But in doing so, I believe we need a holistic approach that looks at what should be the relationship between ECOWAS countries. For example, if rice is imported through a neighboring country that is a member of ECOWAS, and that rice ends up in Nigeria, who should get the duty? Is it the country from where it enters, or the country that it eventually ends in? These are issues which we need to look at, because in the EEC, the European Economic Community, which we now call EU, we do know that there is relationship in terms of tariffs, that if you bring anything to any of them, there is a common pool for the EU. So if it's going to be destined in Nigeria, and Nigeria does not benefit from that duty, then something is wrong with that relationship. Thank you very much, sir.
Final is the Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleague. My intervention has to do with the way we do things in this country. Sir, when as a government you take decision, for example, that you want to encourage local production of rice, this is normally carried in sequence, sir. First, if you are spending 1 billion to import rice, the expectation is that you will use half of it to subsidize local production first, and then come out with what you are able to produce over a given period of time. Because people must eat. Then when you have that statistic, again, because you have, in a way, boosted production, you now again gradually increase the subsidy. And so you continue to go until it has become almost impossible for anybody to import rice from anywhere. But we came with a policy that says, stop at once. The local producers are doing their best to meet the demand, but we all know that without government support, by way of subsidizing the production, the processing, it is going to be practically impossible for these individual investors to go through the pain of establishing a viable supply chain that will meet the demand of Nigerian populace. So really there is a problem. And I think that in our policy decisions, we must equally take that into account. On the second issue of smuggling, sir, let us honestly look at ourselves and tell ourselves the home truth. If you make policies within your country that has made it almost practically impossible for people that are engaged in the investment to live a legal life, then definitely they will find a way of going around it illegally. By our policies and decisions in this country, we have made it almost practically impossible for some investors to do things legally. In fact, it has reached a stage where I'm so afraid that even when you lay the solid foundation for them to operate legally, they will begin to see it as if it is abnormal. Because there are some people, because they have grown so used to doing things illegally, when you offer to them the opportunity to go through the legal process, they begin to wonder whether they are real safe. And I think that what we are supposed to do, yes, as a temporary measure, I agree, I accept the fact that closure of our border is necessary, but again, it is not without implication, like Professor Adeye has said. Having been signatories to the ECOWAS membership, there are certain rights and privileges enjoyed by these countries collectively and individually. So if you stand on those rights, you must be ready to offer explanation. To me, there are compelling reasons to offer explanation for closing our borders. And our reason will be that you have not treated the agreement in accordance with the spirit of which we decided to come together. But on a very serious note, sir, let us not even particularize the issue of rice, because the motion does not particularize the issue on rice import. It is on the issue that the smuggling of goods and services in this country is very, very alarming. And I think that it goes beyond, yes, it goes beyond enforcement. We must, as a country, sit down and look at what are those policies that militate against the doing of business through legal process, like importation of goods. I will give you one example, sir. In Ghana, here, if you import a vehicle that is new, you pay less duty. If you import an old one, you pay more duty. And the reason being that the money that they will save in buying spare parts for those imported cars will have been used for another thing. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. If you import a new car, you pay more, and you import the old one, you pay less. So something is wrong. Definitely something is wrong somewhere. And I think that the decision of the Senate to allow certain people to continue to dictate the policy decision of this country is what is putting us in this trouble. And I'm telling you, sir, no amount of enforcement will radically address the issue of alarming rate of smuggling until something is being done to go beyond that, to put policies in place that will clearly define the legal process of importation of goods and services in this country. Until we do that, with the greatest respect, Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, I think we will only be overstretching our custom officers to continue to fight a battle that we know from day one is a lost battle. So in conclusion, Mr. President, government must come to terms with the fact that they have no alternative other than to give incentives to local producers, to local processors of rice, to even assist in the distribution nationwide. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, very distinguished colleagues. Since this matter will eventually go for public hearing, I suggest that we end the debate at this point so that the committee will do their work. By the time they come back, we're able to have the whole picture, including what is causing the smuggling and then what can be done to put it in checks. But before we do that, let me thank all of you for your very incisive contributions. I believe that these contributions will help the committee if it goes to public hearing in getting to the root of this matter. But to say that local rice is cheap, is more costly than the imported ones, is an inverted logic. And so something must actually be wrong. So I think that in addition to trying to police the borders and ensure that people pay for goods they are bringing into this country, we must also try to ensure that there must be a corresponding increase in the supply chain. Because unless the supply exceeds the demand, there will continue to be pressure, on the citizens, to find rice, and that's where smugglers will also have their own incentive. So I believe that while we are doing everything to check the borders, we must also do everything possible to increase their supply. It's also had to do with the law of supply and demand. So we will do all our bit, including the Ministry of Agriculture, the government, and everybody, to ensure that we increase the supply, that is the supply of rice in the country, so that the smugglers will have less incentive to smuggle the rice. So on this note, I'd like to go to the prayers. Prayer 1, urge the federal government to intensify border patrol to check the activities of these smugglers. Those in support of this prayer, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the federal government to engage our neighboring countries where these smuggled rice are discharged by ships and transported to the country. Those in support of this prayer, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariff to carry out a holistic investigation on the operation of Comprehensive Import Supervision Scheme, CISS, and identify those behind the smuggling of rice and other items into Nigeria with a view to bringing them to book. Yes, Lero.
Mr. President, the Comprehensive Import Supervision Scheme has been abolished. We now have destination inspection. And what is happening is that the rice that was imported through export processing zone was done so with the connivance of the custom officers at the free trade zone. They allowed it to go in, and they know very well that if it is to be used for home consumption, it's supposed to pay import duty, and they allowed it to enter Nigerian market freely without ascertaining the condition of that rice. And secondly, Mr. President, recently about 200 container loads of rice were seized by customs at Oneport. And this rice is not even examined by...
Is it an amendment to the prayer now?
No, I'm just trying to explain why CIS should not be here, because...
So what's the amendment?
It's the destination inspection is what we have.
Okay, still open the demo.
What we are practicing now is comprehensive import supervision scheme, managed by a technical committee set up by Federal Minister of Finance under Central Bank. As I speak to you, the members of the committee are now in room 211. Destination inspection is a temporary measure that the customs decided to do because of the absence of scanners. But the comprehensive import supervision scheme was established by an act of parliament, the pre-shipment inspection. And it's on the basis of that act that importers are currently paying 1% cess levy. So it has not been abolished.
So your motion is in line?
It is in line. I couldn't have bring something...
So the prayer is correct?
The prayer is correct, sir.
Okay, don't worry. When we get on the investigation, we'll find out.
Mr. President, comprehensive import supervision scheme has been abolished, and we have trained enough personnel locally to handle inspection of goods imported into the country. We are paying close to about $1 billion to foreigners. These are jobs that can be, be made available to Nigerians. If you bring it back again, it means you are more or less taking jobs from Nigeria and giving it to foreigners. So I'm opposed to the idea of comprehensive import supervision scheme. The companies are multinationals. They are based in Europe and also in Southeast Asia, and we pay billions of dollars to them just to examine our imports, assess import duty, and send us reports. So we have enough manpower locally to do it here. So I'm opposed to the idea of bringing comprehensive import supervision.
Well, this is easy to deal with. I think the important thing here is for us to get at the root of the smuggling, whether it is CISS or destination inspection, whatever. It does not really matter to us. So maybe if you like, we can delete that part. which will still amount to the same thing. Yeah?
Sir.
Yes, not additional prayer. Let's finish with this one.
Mr. President, sir.
Yes.
My suggestion is that we should either adopt these prayers as stated in the motion. In the public hearing, if that aspect is not there, it's open to the entire public. The custom will be, all stakeholders will be there in the public hearing. So I don't think there is need for us to waste our time. Let us adopt the prayers and go ahead, so that the committee can now differentiate when they come to public hearing and know which one is relevant and which one is not relevant. So that is my suggestion.
So, Senator Ozodema, is there any problem if we remove the CISS?
You don't even, what he's saying is different from what is in this motion. What he's saying is the inspection aspect of the scheme. The scheme is beyond just inspecting the goods. He is saying that they are doing destination inspection. That's, goods can only be inspected when they get in here. That is convenient for him. I don't know why. But then the comprehensive import specification includes exports, which is next. And then it originates, starts from central bank from the time you apply for foreign exchange. It's a value chain. It's a scheme. That's what I'm saying. So, and the act has not been repealed. I don't know who abolished it. The act is still in place. So let us go and do this scheme, because the most important.
All right, we'll put the question and see. Mandate the Committee on Customs, Necessary and Tariff to carry out a holistic investigation on the operation of comprehensive import supervision scheme and identify those behind the smuggling of rice and other items into Nigeria with a view to bringing them to book. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Aye. Those against saying nay, the ayes have it. This is, thank you so much. And additional prayer, yes?
So the additional prayer is to all the federal courts. The additional prayer is to urge the federal government to work out a comprehensive import regime and provide sufficient incentive to farmers and local processors of rice in Nigeria.
Is there any person supporting that? Senator Adeye.
My distinguished colleagues, to second that beautiful additional prayer, which will actually supplement the effort to curb smuggling.
Those in support of the additional prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. All right, thank you so much. Senator Opuzodema, you also have to look into the other allegation of the importation of plastic rice. You know, this allegation of plastic rice coming from China, which is injurious to our health. So please, while you do this, also look out for the truth otherwise of this, and so that we'll be able to see how to put it in checks. Thank you. All right, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I can see about 15 committees have committee meetings at 2 o'clock. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, taking into account the need for time, I will move that we step down the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in view of the activities going on in our miniature chambers, I second that the outstanding items be stepped down to the next legislative day. I so second.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the prayer that will stand down the remaining items in the other paper to another legislative day say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I move that the Senate hereby do adjourn till tomorrow, 14th June 2017. I so move. At 10 a.m. prompt.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the Senate do adjourn till tomorrow at 10 a.m., 14th of June. I so second.
Dear colleagues, those who of the prayer that the Senate do not adjourn to tomorrow, the 14th day of June 2017 at 10 a.m. say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate is accordingly adjourned.